A long time ago, deep in the forests of Africa, all the animals lived together in peace, but among them was one who always made himself greater than the rest, and that was the elephant. He was the biggest, tallest, and strongest animal, and because of this he became very proud. Every morning when the sun rose and the birds sang, Elephant would walk through the forest, flap his big ears, swing his long trunk, and boast loudly, "I am the strongest animal in the forest. No one can defeat me, no one can challenge me, I am the king." The smaller animals kept quiet, for who could argue with such a huge creature? Even Lion, known for his roar, said nothing, because Elephant was larger and stronger. But one small animal grew tired of hearing the same words every day, and that was the slow but clever Tortoise. One evening, after Elephant's endless boasting, Tortoise lifted his small head and said, "Elephant, you are strong, but strength is not everything. Wisdom is greater than strength, and I believe I can prove it." The animals gasped in shock. How could tiny Tortoise speak to mighty Elephant in such a way? Elephant burst into laughter, shaking the ground. You dare compare yourself to me? Very well, tomorrow we will have a contest, and everyone will see who is truly the greatest." The animals clapped their paws, wings, and hooves with excitement, for they loved contests and wanted to see what would happen. The next morning, the sun rose bright, and the animals gathered at the big river to watch. Elephant stood proudly, tusks shining, ears wide, and announced, "We shall test our strength today. Whoever pulls the hardest will win." He brought out a thick rope made of twisted vines, tied one end around his waist, and gave the other end to Tortoise. The animals laughed, whispering, "This is unfair, Tortoise will never win." But Tortoise only smiled, took the rope, and walked slowly to the riverbank. No one noticed when he tied his end of the rope tightly to a giant tree root buried deep in the ground. Once it was secure, he returned and said, "I am ready." Elephant lifted his trunk proudly and shouted, "Then let us begin." He pulled with all his might, his legs digging into the soil, muscles bulging, ears flapping. The rope stretched tight, but it did not move. The animals opened their eyes wide. To them, it looked like Tortoise was holding Elephant in place. Some began to cheer, "Look at Tortoise! He is stopping the mighty Elephant." Elephant grew angry and embarrassed. He pulled harder, his trunk waving, dust rising all around, but still the rope would not move an inch. The tree root held firm. The animals clapped and shouted, amazed that the small Tortoise could resist Elephant. With one last effort, Elephant pulled so hard that the ground shook and birds flew away in fright, but his strength gave out, and he fell with a heavy thud. Tired, dusty, and sweating, he lay on the ground, too weak to continue. Slowly, Tortoise walked to the rope, untied it from the tree root, and said calmly, "You see, Elephant, wisdom is greater than strength. While you were showing off your power, I used my mind, and in the end, it was wisdom that won." The animals cheered even louder, chanting, "Wisdom! Wisdom! Wisdom is greater than power." They lifted Tortoise high and celebrated him. Elephant lowered his head in shame and realized how foolish his pride had been. From that day on, he stopped boasting and treated the smaller animals with respect. The forest returned to peace, for all remembered the lesson. It is not always the strongest who wins, but the one who uses cleverness and wisdom. And so, the story of the proud elephant and the clever tortoise was passed down from one generation to another, teaching children under the moonlight that size does not matter, and that even the smallest creature can outsmart the mightiest if it uses wisdom.